Yeah, so we just finished the Troopy build on this one. This has got a few different options on it that we haven't done before, so let's jump into it and check it out. Yeah, so starting at the front, he's got the off-road animal bull bar, and then he's just got the laser 9-inch Sentinel just on there, and then it's also got the carbon winch just inside there as well. And then the isolator for the carbon winch is just up here, so we've just got a little bracket there, and then it's just tucked away nicely and slightly out the way. Then you've got the standard start battery, and just on top of that, he's got quite a lot of MIDIs going on, so we just had to make these little 2 custom brackets just to allow us to fit all the MIDI fuses. And then everything's labeled there, so you can see everything that he needs. So if you ever have any dramas, you just know straight away which fuse it is, and then it just makes it super simple. And then located just underneath that, we just made another custom bracket just to house all the relays, because he's got ones for thermo fans, the heating in the seats as well. So we just had to make a little bracket so that we could just get all the relays mounted up there and just tucked away nicely. Same again, everything's labeled, so any dramas, you know straight away where to go. Then we've also got the Sentry Overlander just for the get home safes, and then that way if you have any dramas with the actual start battery running flat, you can just hit the switch in the dash and it'll just link them together, and then that way it just makes it super simple. You haven't got to worry about getting any jumper leads. You just hit that switch and then it'll just link them together. And then it's got the SPI, so as soon as it senses that alternator's charging, it'll just link them back together, and then it'll charge that up, and then as soon as this drops too low, it'll disconnect them, and then that way you haven't got to worry about this running flat. Also just got our upgraded alternator cabling. We haven't done the other side to the alternator. We're still waiting on the actual brushless alternator to arrive. So we've just left the stock one in, and we've just dialed back the Orion DC-DC charging so we don't overload it. And as soon as that new alternator comes, we just swap that out. Cabling's already there. We just got to do the alternator side, straight up to the fuse, and then you're good to go. Then also over on the driver's side, just another little bracket made just to be able to house the diff breathers. So he's got the front and rear diff breathers there. That's pretty much everything under the engine bay, so we'll jump around the side and check that out. Yeah, so over on the passenger side, so just up on the roof, you can just see that we've just fitted a solar panel with just some custom brackets up there. So that's a 425 watt solar panel. That way you've got plenty of solar charge coming in to be able to charge those 2 200 amp hour batteries. And then located just in front of that, we made another bracket for the Starlink Mini. So that one's just a bracket that's designed that it just doesn't need any tools, and you can just use your hand just to pull the tab down and it'll slide straight out of that bracket. And then that way when you need it on the ground, because it's not on the slightly best location, you can easily take that off without needing any tools, but then you just slide it straight back in when you want it housed onto the roof. Then coming down lower, we just fitted the Laser Linear 36 Elite light bar just on the top of the roof there. And that's also switched via the dash. And then customer already had these MSA mirrors, but we just needed to actually wire them all up because they're the power fold ones and that. So we put all the switch and all that in the dash, and then that way it's got all the indicators, because the 70 series don't come with that, so we've wired them into just the indicator circuit, and then also all the power fold. And then the customer already mounted the actual cameras, but we just needed to wire them all to the head unit. So they've all been wired into the head unit. Now he's got 360-degree cameras. So he's got one on each mirror, one on the front of the bull bar, and then also one on the rear. And then located further down, so he's got the laser utility 25 with the amber cover, and then that's just switched via the dash. So he's got one on this side, same again on the other side, and then also another one on the rear, but that's just a slightly different light, not the 25. That's the Linear 6. And then down further, so he's already fitted the Dachi 270-degree awning. Yeah, so the customer already fitted this MaxRax table. This is where we typically will install them. A lot of people like to put them a bit further back, but obviously the downside to that is you can't really get to the utility vent if you do mount it further back. And then what that means is you've then got to fold it down to be able to use any of that stuff in the vent. So this is where we'll typically always install them. It just makes it a little bit easier to be able to access that vent. And then just when you fold down the actual table, we've just installed 2 10 amp outlets here. So then that way if you ever want to do any coffee making or anything here, you've got a couple of outlets there. You're not having to run any cords through the gull wing or around the side there. Just makes it a bit nicer. And then just inside both of these gull wings, we just made a bracket there, and it's just got the national lunar light, same as always. It's got the amber and the white function, and that's just on both of these two gull wings here. So yeah, we just like to try to make this bracket just better than double-sided taping the actual light onto the glass. Obviously you're a bit limited to what you can do when it comes to the glass, so that's why we just make this bracket. Picks up off already the bolts for the struts, and then that way we're able to bolt this onto the actual bracket, and then that gets bolted onto the struts. Then just located into the utility vent here is just the second tank. So this is the rear tank. He's got two tanks on this one. This is the 40-litre one, and then the front one's a 90-litre. So this is just the output for the rear tank, and then that's just the fill point for it. And then this is just an Anderson output, so that's just power if you ever needed to power anything on this side. That's pretty much everything for the passenger side, so we'll jump around the back and check that out. Yeah, so jumping around to the back, so we've just got the camera for the rear view mirror here, and then that's just a 360-degree rear camera. So when they've got the Mission 4x4 storage rack, it just makes it a nice place to be able to store those cameras. If people don't have them, then typically we'll chuck those cameras on the inside of the window there. But if you're able to have this storage rack, it just makes it super nice, and then it's just nice and sleek there, kind of tucks it away. And then also up on the top there is just a Linear 6. That's the Elite Plus. So the big benefit to that one is it's got the amber and white inbuilt into it, so you don't need to have a rear cover for that one. So we can just hit a switch in the dash there, and we can just change the mode. So you can have amber, you can have white, and then you can also have a combination of both, and you can also dim the white as well. So just makes it super easy to be able to do it. You're not stuffing around with any sort of lens covers. It's all just controlled by the dash. And then located just underneath is just, that's where we've put the solar input. So I just wanted it on the rear, and then that way it just makes it a bit more universal. You're not stuck to having it on the right hand side or the left hand side, and then that way it just gives it a bit more flexibility to suit wherever the sun is and set that blanket up. That's pretty much everything around the back. We'll jump around to the driver's side and check that out. Yeah, so here on the driver's side, we've just got the GME UHF just on the fold down bracket, so they're just able to fold that down when they're not using it. And then yeah, when they want to use it, it's folded up. Keeps it off the bull bar, that way it's not in your line of sight, so it just makes it a bit nicer. And the same again for the self-fire, it's just got up there. We try to put them on the driver's side just from the fact that you can't rotate this little tab here. So what it means, if you put it on the passenger side, you've got to make a bracket that sticks out quite far, because you've obviously got to have the ability to get in there and then fold that all the way down. So ideally, if you do want fold down brackets on your roof, you put them on the driver's side, just makes it a bit easier. Otherwise you've got to have a pretty long bracket to put it on that other side. Then there's the other utility 25 with the amber cover on this side, same deal, switch from the dash. And then yeah, we've got the other MSA mirror here. And then jumping into this gull wing is where we've got all our shower. So we've got our mixer, our shower outlet, and then just a water pump there. So this one's got two switches, one for here and then one in the dash. So both dual switch just allow you to be able to turn it off at either location. So you have to get that hot water to come out of here. And then just down here in the utility hatch, we've just got our second underfloor tank pickup, and then also the external to come out, which is hot water that's going through the Duetto inside. And then what we've got here is also the external pickup. So the way we've plumbed this one, you've just got an inlet for your tank and inlet for the external pickup, and then your hot water will come from both of the external and the actual front, the front tank. So all you've got to do is just a little valve underneath. You just turn that, whether you want it to be external to pick it up from or to pick up from the tank, and then the outlet stays the exact same. So you can get hot water from both ones. It's just where you want it to pick up from. You just manipulate that with the little valve underneath the car. Then we've got our air outlet on this side from the twin ARB compressor that's just inside the quarter panel there. And then yeah, that rounds out everything inside that utility hatch. That's pretty much everything on this side, so we'll jump inside and check out what we've done in there. So jumping into the rear here, so we've just got a twin GPO up on here, and then that way if you want to ever do any coffee making or anything on this table here, you've got an outlet there. And then we've got the same again over this side, because we've got an induction cooktop in here. This is a 10 amp, so we just can put a twin 10 amp in. If you go the dual hob one, you do need a 15 amp outlet there because it comes with a 15 amp plug, but this one being the 10, we just went for the twin 10 GPO. And then jumping up inside, so just in this first compartment here is just the little toilet where he stores that, and then moving over to the next one is where he's then just got a little cooker in there. So that's where we've put another twin GPO, one to be able to power the actual cooker itself, and then also one for the Duetto. So instead of putting one into the Duetto one, we'll just go ahead and put that one in there, and that way it can operate for both of them instead of putting one there and then one there. Just saves a little bit of costs. And then just in here, it's the stock standard. The Duetto just goes up in there, and then this one's switched via 12 volt in the dash, and then also the 240 volt GPO through the inverter. Then coming up to the charge station here, so we've got the Victron Touch 50, and then same as always, it controls your inverter. You just use that top middle square, you can click on that, and then you can turn it from off to on, and then you'll get all your 240 volt charging, and then also all your power points will then become live, and then you'll be able to use the Duetto and then any other appliances you wish. Then also you'll see on the left hand side, so the left hand side always for the Victron screen is your charging side. So because we have no shore power connected right now and there's no solar coming in, we've just got our alternator there, and then once we had those pick up, then it'll register them and then they'll show there. Then you got your battery to show everything that's going on there, and then your DC loads and your AC loads. So you'll always see straight away where you're actually consuming your power. It just makes it super simple to know if you're using too much power, what's actually pulling all the power, and you go, okay, it's AC power's pulling everything, let's turn my inverter off, or let's turn some of these 240 volt appliances off, save a bit of power so we don't run out. So that's a really nice feature the Victron always have. Located next to that is just another twin 10 amp GPO. And then located next to that is just your dual USB, and then just a little 6 socket to do any sort of charging of phones and so on. And then also located up here, so this is the LU cab roof conversion that was already done, and then the customer just asked if they could have a split door. So the LU cab always comes with just the one access panel that just goes the whole length, and he just asked if we could split it into two, so you could always keep one down, and then that way you can just fold one down and then the other one can stay up instead of both having to come down. So we basically just had to cut that in half, remove the light that was there, and then just chuck all this this bar in, and then recarpet it, and then we had to do the same again up on the top there. We just had to give it a little lip. So you just notice up there, just all these rivets. That's just a new plate we had to manufacture, and then just bolt onto there, and then that way this can just fold down. It's got a little lip to hold onto. So, and then we just got it all repowder coated, and then yeah, it looks pretty factory. Yeah, and then up on the roof, so the LED light is normally powered from the start battery, so we'll just swap that to the lithium, so then that way it's always powered from there, and then that way it's not going to drain down that start battery. Also got the National Lunar fridge, it's the 95 litre there, or the 90 litre, sorry, there, and then that way you got plenty of storage space. And then located over on the side here is just another Anderson output, and then also a 6 socket as well. That's pretty much everything in here. Let's jump to the front and check that out. Alright, so jumping into the front now. So he's got an automatic transmission, so that's a pretty nice upgrade that he's done, but a part of that is the actual controller here was housed down into the actual center console here. So we just removed that and relocated up to the top here and just 3D printed this new little housing there, and then just put 2 switches on either side, one for the battery link and then one for the selfie. And then we were able to free up this space down here, and then same thing, we 3D printed this, and then we were able to get a lot of switches. So we had to go to dual switches because we do have quite a few to turn on and off. So on this side we got the left and right work lights, the rear work lights, and then that's just the mode change button there, so that's a momentary, so you just press that every time you want to change the mode and it'll just cycle through it. Then you got the 12 volt water heater there, you got your air compressor switch, and then you got your 2 water pumps, so the one for the tank, and then one for if you want external, so that's just your 2 pumps there, and then this one is for rock lights. So that was a last edition we just made, just to have rock lights just around it, so that way if you ever setting up camp at night time, you're just able to turn those rock lights on and you're just able to illuminate the floor and just be able to see what's exactly around you on the ground. So that's a nice little feature there. And then located next to that is just the insert for the UHF, so that way you're just able to tuck the whenever you're not using the actual UHF, you just unplug it, but when you are using it, you just plug it in, and then that way the unit itself is actually tucked away under the dash, and then it just keeps it out of the way. Then located up here is just the car vision rear view mirror camera, just with the rear camera that we've already discussed on that shelf there. And then it does have a couple extra inputs, so if you do want extra cameras for like a second rear, for like a caravan, or a front facing one, you can add those cameras in as well, and you can just either trigger them via a switch, or you can have them triggered via like a reverse or whatever you want to do really. So that's a nice little feature to be able to have a few different cameras. Not too many people have that, so that's why we've always opted for that one. Then located just behind the passenger seat here is the MultiPlus. So this will do all your 240 volt needs, that's the AC charging, and also all your outlets. And this is the 3 kVA, so it's up to 3000 watts. And then you get 120 amps of AC charging as well. So whenever people are looking to do some AC and they want to be able to do charging and also they're inverting, we always offer the Victron one, just because it is the biggest AC charger on the market. You can't get bigger than a 120, and then it's got all the internal transfer over and it handles everything for you. So it's the simplest way to do it. As soon as you turn that on, it'll just look at, do I have any shore power coming in, yes or no? And then if you do, it'll start utilizing that, and then any extra, it'll charge the batteries. And then let's say if you were plugged into AC, like a genset for example, and you can't pull that amount of power from it because it's a small genset, and then you're asking for too much, you can tell it, hey, only pull say 5 amps of 240 volt power, and then the rest, it'll just automatically pull from the batteries. So it'll sort it all out for you. You don't have to do anything. You just set it on the screen and then you're good to go. So it's the easiest, simplest, and pretty much the most powerful on the market. That's why we usually always opt for those ones. Then just located behind the driver's seat is just the 2 RCDs, because you got the one for the incoming and then one for your actual GPOs. And then located next to that is the DC hub, and then everything inside the actual compartment there. So you got your two 200 amp hour Amptron batteries, then all your stock standard Victron gear, your Cerbo, your Smart Shunt, your 2 MPPTs, one for the solar, one for the fixed solar, and then one for the blanket. And then also your Orion DC-DC charger in there. Also located just in the center console here is just a USB. So originally this head unit had a USB that was just tucked out under here, and then anytime you needed to plug your phone in to get the Apple CarPlay, you just had to plug into there. But we just sourced an outlet that just allowed us to be able to plug that USB input into this, and then that way you can just plug your phone straight into there, and then you get Apple CarPlay straight away. So that was pretty nice. Instead of having to have this little cord chilling down the bottom here, it's just nice tucked into there. It just makes it a bit nicer. And then located on the driver's side there of the dash is just the switch. It's just a dual switch for the light bar and also your spotlight. So we only had that one spot to be able to put the switches for that, so that's why we put a dual switch in, and then that way you can control them individually. Sometimes you want to have the roof light bar on, sometimes you don't, so that's why we just put them on separate switches. But if you just choose to always want to have them on together, you just leave them both in, and then every time the high beam's activated, they'll come on. But if it's too much, you can obviously turn them off individually. Yeah, so that's everything on this one. This is a pretty nice one. I really like that automatic transmission upgrade. That's definitely a nice upgrade. But yeah, it's a pretty nice build, this one now, and now they're ready to drive anywhere. So if you're interested in something similar, or you'd like to get in contact with us, just head over to our website. You can get in contact with us there.